Hi folks, it's Bob from Mountain Crest Farms. Oh, it is a pretty day here. I actually think it's going to be too pretty. It's about 70 degrees. It's not real hot, but I don't know what the humidity is, but it's got to be up around 80%. So even though it's 70 degrees, it is muggy. Whew, break a sweat just standing here. First, I want to apologize for this video. It probably won't be the greatest one you've ever seen. I'm telling you that ahead of time. You'll click off right now, right? I want y'all to know I've been standing here leaning up against the back of my truck for 30 minutes thinking about what to talk about today. And it wasn't that I had 5 fantastic ideas all just bursting to get out of my head or anything like that. I just didn't know what to talk about today. I finally settled on one, and if this ain't great, well, you get what you pay for it. Y'all know I'm pretty political, even though I try to keep it out of the videos. I'll talk about government in the videos, and I will in this one a little bit, but I don't talk politics, not on this channel. There's places on the internet where I am pretty political. Got a blog that I'll never tell you where it is. If you stumble across it, fine. But if you don't stumble across it, you won't even know where it is. And I've got another YouTube channel that's real political, but y'all never know where that is. Politics doesn't belong on this channel. This channel is about, well, it was about just homesteading. All the skill sets you've got to have to homestead, how to build a good fence where you're not having to repair it every month, and how to raise pigs. Y'all know I raise pigs, which there will be a surprise video here in the next few days. Y'all are gonna, my coffee chat's gonna touch on homesteading a little bit more than it does. I'm not gonna tell you what it's about. It's something similar, something related to pigs, but I'm not gonna tell you details now. But then there's the coffee chats, which for the last month and a half, I've started doing, which really don't touch on homesteading much at all. They're mostly me rambling. That's, when you get down to it, that's what it has come down to. Bob rambles. So, but today, I think I want to talk about people and the way they change. I'm not talking about individuals. I'm not talking about changes that I've made in my life or you need to make in your life. I'm talking about generally people, and this one does touch on government. 4th of July is Independence Day is in our very recent past. Well, this year's version. And things happened on Independence Day and the day or two leading up to it that made me realize just how much groups of people have changed over the years since I was a teenager. And specifically, I'm thinking about what has come to be known as the progressive left. And y'all know I'm conservative. I'm not Republican, I'm conservative. They used to be the same thing, they aren't anymore. I'm conservative, and but the progressive left used to be called Democrats. They still called Democrats. Changed. They changed. I used to have good friends that were progressives. They felt one way, I felt another. We had a discussion about it, and then we had a barbecue sandwich because we were in the backyard having a barbecue. Doesn't happen anymore. There's a fella, I can't remember his name, reporter, not for a major news outlet. You know, today with the internet, a reporter is anybody with a camera and that likes talking to the camera or being behind the camera and narrating or just showing what's going on. That's come to be a reporter these days, and I think that's a good thing, by the way. I think everybody should always have a camera on them at all times, even if it's nothing but your phone, in case you see something that needs recording that people outside your circle of friends need to know about. But this guy's a internet reporter up in, I believe it was Portland, Oregon. And he leans conservative, but he doesn't get involved in protests or rallies or anti-rallies or anything. He just records what happens. And a scumbag group that is known generally as Antifa or Antifa, which is supposed to be anti-fascist, when in fact they're actually fascists that claim to be anti-fascists, assaulted him. He went to the hospital. He suffered a severe enough blow to his head that he had a brain bleed. He was roughed up really bad by a bunch of Antifa who, I'll tell you right now, and if you like them, you're not going to like me anymore. I think they're a bunch of cowards. You got a problem with me, come face me. I know who you are, you know who I am, and we'll talk about it. And if you want to do more than talk, I'll be willing to do that too. But don't come wearing a mask. Don't sneak up behind me. Well, that's what they did with this guy. He's trying to walk away, and they're coming up behind him with masks. He got hit in the head with a crowbar. They were throwing, ever since a month or two ago over in England, one of the pro-Brexit politicians got milkshaked. That's what it's called now. Throwing milkshakes on somebody, which I think is kind of childish. But Antifa takes it one step farther. They take a milkshake and they mix it with some fast-drying concrete. Throw that in your face. And they did that to him. And I'm thinking, that's not how the progressive left used to do things at all. And what comes to mind is back when I was a teenager, Vietnam War era. I was just a little bit too young for Vietnam. Missed it by about 2 or 3 years. There were anti-government, anti-war protesters back then, and they treated returning servicemen pretty bad. Get off a plane in an airport in Atlanta and get spit in your face just because you're wearing a uniform, just because your government sent you to Vietnam to fight the war that somebody thought was bad, which in hindsight it was a bad war. Never should have been there, but that's for my political page. But there were protesters back then, sit-ins and all that sort of thing. But the protesters didn't hate America, and these do. Today's progressive left hates everything about America. They hate what we stand for. I'm guessing I probably got some liberal viewers. Okay. But you're not the progressive left liberals, I don't think. The viewers I have that are liberal are old-fashioned liberal. We'll have that discussion in the backyard, and then both of us will have a barbecue sandwich. These people today that are the progressive left, they hate America. They want to destroy everything that America stands for. They don't want to fix what they think is wrong. They want destruction. And I go back to when I was a teenager. When I was a teenager, there was this little music festival. There's a little town in upstate New York called Woodstock. And Woodstock happened when I was 14 years old. I believe it was in August of 1969. That's pretty close. That's within a month or so. 3-day music festival. I hitchhiked up there. Didn't tell my mom I was going. Now, I was not a hippie. I was really conservative back then. I've always been conservative, which I guess, if you go by the old saying, I must not have been a very nice person, because the old saying is, if you're under 30 and liberal, if you're under 30 and conservative, you have no heart, and if you're over 30 and liberal, you have no brain. But I was 14 years old. Politically, I was pretty conservative, but I liked some of the music that was going to be played there. I liked Joe Cocker. I liked Jimi Hendrix. So I hitchhiked up there. And for a 14-year-old male with some hormones that were just beginning to rage, oh, that place was awesome. It was like going to Disneyland. I've never seen so many naked women in all my life. Everybody's up there smoking dope, running around naked. Yeah, there was sex all over the place, just right out there. But you know what else was there? Woodstock was opened, the music. The opening of Woodstock was somebody who would be an anti-Vietnam War, progressive left of the day activist, besides being a musician. Woodstock was opened by Jimi Hendrix. And you know what the very first song played at Woodstock was? The national anthem, played by Jimi Hendrix on electric guitar. Now, I don't like the way the national anthem gets played a lot. Didn't like his version, don't like a lot today. Everybody has to play with it and dress it up. I just want the national anthem straight, okay? But Jimi Hendrix opened Woodstock with the national anthem on his guitar. You know what the crowd did? They stood up. The ones I saw, most of them put their hands over their heart. They paid attention, and they sang along with it. They sang the national anthem. That's what happened with the progressive left back then. They loved America. They just wanted to see some changes. They wanted the Vietnam War over and things like that. Okay. They didn't hate America, though. They loved America. They stood up for Jimi Hendrix to play the national anthem. You know what else about Jimi Hendrix? That long-haired hippie type playing all that terrible music that our parents couldn't stand. Jimi Hendrix, progressive left, in the 60s, before he was Jimi Hendrix, famous musician, do you know what Jimi Hendrix did? Jimi Hendrix was in the U.S. Army, 101st Airborne, and he was damn proud of it. Don't desecrate the flag around Jimi Hendrix. Don't talk bad about America around Jimi Hendrix. He'd tell you there were some problems that need fixing, and there were, and there still are. But don't run down America. 101st Airborne, playing the national anthem at Woodstock. Today's progressive left doesn't do that. Nothing even close. They don't want the national anthem. They'll step on the flag. And they do it out of ignorance. See, that's the thing. I think that's where the difference is. They do it out of ignorance. Colin Kaepernick and the Betsy Ross flag and Nike. Colin Kaepernick showed that he's uneducated. He might have a college degree, actually from a pretty good school. But he showed his ignorance with the protesting that Nike was going to put out sneakers with the Betsy Ross flag on it. And Nike showed their ignorance by knuckling under to him. Betsy Ross flag, sewn by Betsy Ross at the request of George Washington. If Colin Kaepernick is so anti the heritage of slavery, I don't like that we had slaves. You don't own another human being, but it's a part of our history. But if he is so against the American flag, standing for the anthem, wants to take a knee, blah 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 blah, yada 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 yada, then why did he protest the Betsy Ross flag? Because that's what it's known as, the Betsy Ross flag. The original 13 stars in a circle, representing the 13 colonies. Why would he protest that flag? You know what is ignorant? You know why I say he's ignorant? Did you know that Betsy Ross was a Quaker? Do you know how Quakers came to this country? They came to this country because of oppression in England, because they were trying to end slavery in England. And the English government, King George, didn't much care for that and pretty much ran them out. And Betsy Ross was a Quaker, raised a Quaker. When she married her husband, Mr. Ross, her family disowned her for marrying outside the Quaker faith, and she was kicked out of the Quaker church, but she was still a Quaker at heart and in principle. Do you know what Quakers believed? Quakers were abolitionists. They were some of the first people in this country that as a group were trying to end slavery. So you've got Betsy Ross sewing a flag that today is known as the Betsy Ross flag, and you've got Colin Kaepernick, who is, his big problem is supposed to be two things. Scummy police, because all they want to do is kill blacks, and the slavery heritage in this country. And he raised Cain over a pair of sneakers that had a Betsy Ross, the abolitionist, flag on it. Showed he was ignorant. Nike showed they were ignorant. They'll knuckle under to one person over a flag, but you know, the millions of people that would have liked to have had those sneakers, they won't listen to us. But he showed he was ignorant, and I think that's one reason that people are so different. I said people change as a group, and I think that's one reason why is people are so ignorant of our history. And I've got a little bit of conspiracy theorist in me on that. You know, kids today are not taught how to read and write in cursive. Now, you can say it's because of computers and you don't have cursive on a keyboard and all that sort of thing. I don't think so. You know, my theory, my conspiracy theorist theory on why kids aren't taught to read and write in cursive anymore? Because the founding documents in this country are a threat to progressivism. The founding documents, not what some college professor says is in the founding documents, not what he says about people, writings and things back then, but the documents themselves are a threat to progressivism, and they weren't typed out on a typewriter. They were written in cursive. And if a kid can't read and write in cursive, then they can't read the founding documents. You can't tell them, no, that's not true. Your professor's a liar. Go back to the source. Go find a copy of the original Declaration of Independence. Go find a copy of the original Constitution and read it. See what it really says. Don't believe your professor. If you can't read and write in cursive, you can't read the founding documents. You got to take what somebody tells you. And and we don't teach civics in school anymore. We teach a bastardized version of American history. When I was in school, when Jimi Hendrix was in school, when the progressive left of the 60s was in school, you taught you learned American history. You learned civics. You learned how things are supposed to work. Now, textbooks, history textbooks, if your high school teaches American history, some don't in this country. They teach the progressive left's version of American history, and you can't go check it. Kids can't go check it. They can't see founding documents, or they can see them, but they can't read them. But it's just funny. No, it's not funny. It's sad how a group of people, the progressive left, can change from the 60s, when they wanted to change government, when they thought there were bad things that happened that needed fixing, but loved America and stood for Jimi Hendrix to play the national anthem. And the progressive left today, who tries to shut down free speech, like that reporter in Portland, Oregon, and who hate everything about America. That's not a person changing. That's a group of people that change. I know. I'm 64 years old. And us old farts, yes, I use the term old farts, and if it offends you, tough. I'm 64, I'm one. I also use the term geezers, so if either one of those offend you, I'm sorry. I don't know. We hate change. And sometimes that's not good, because sometimes change is good. It's not good that we don't like change. But this change, this change in what were considered liberals and progressive left, this change is not a good change. And it's mostly out of ignorance, not stupidity, ignorance. If they knew our history, they wouldn't hate it. There's nothing to hate about this country. There are instances that have happened in this country, like slavery, that are bad. But there's nothing to hate about the country. And that's about all I've got today. And I have talked for over 20 minutes. And y'all probably cut this thing off at about, I don't know, some of you probably cut it off at about 3 minutes. But that's all I'm not going to harangue you any longer about that. So I'm going to cut it short for today. This is not short. I'm going to cut it off for today and remind you of those two things. Two things. Number one, the tomb was empty. Number two, he is alive. And if y'all stuck around this long, have a fantastic day. And I'll see you in the next video.